Today we have a 2023 rap albums tier list. We got some of the most popular rap albums from this year. So let's get right into it. We're going to be starting off very strong with Utopia. It's definitely an album of the year candidate. It was worth the 5-year wait. You have some of the best production you could find. So many amazing beat switches, whether that be in My Eyes. Thank God has one of the hardest beat switches of this year. You got Schizo, which has 3 different beat switches towards the end of the song. On top of that, everything I thought this album was going to be, it wasn't, but in the best way possible. It was a very unpredictable, refreshing, unique album. The features were also amazing. Playboi Carti on Fiend, Drake's on Meltdown, Tizo Touchdowns on Modern Jam. Those are just a few to name. And overall, all of this made for a lot of replay value. I'm still going back to this album consistently. I think My Eyes is maybe a top 5 Travis song of all time, and it definitely deserves that album of the year candidate. Moving on to the Estate Sale, which isn't really an album, but it was still an amazing continuation of Call Me If You Get Lost. It has some career-defining songs for Tyler, like Sorry Not Sorry, and because of that, it just gives this sense of importance to the project. Going on to a very interesting one, A Great Chaos. When I first listened to this, I wasn't too big of a fan, but I have to say it quickly grew on me, and honestly, I'd probably go in that 7 to 8 range, more so a 7 than an 8, but I feel like Ken Carson took a big step up. He's really coming into his own as a rapper. You have so many catchy songs. The production is also great on this project. Fighting My Demons, I love that intro. This was definitely a pleasant surprise from this year. Going on to A Gift and a Curse. So I do think this album is pretty overrated. It has some quality songs. Back to the Moon is a great song, but most of it is fairly generic, average, and boring. And I honestly think it's an average rap album. Moving on to Maps, we're going straight back to that album of the year candidate. The production from Kenny Siegel matches so perfectly with Billy Woods' rapping style. Of course, you have some of the best lyricism you could find from Billy Woods, and I love all the instrumentation in this album, how so many songs start out with a piano or a saxophone or guitars, and then expand into this big set of production. Scary Hours 3 is another interesting one, because I liked it more than For All the Dogs by a lot. I think I'd also go in that like 7 range, so we're putting it in amazing. I wish this was For All the Dogs. It's not bloated. It's a very easy listen to get through. All the songs hit in their own way. Next, we've got the collab album from Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist. I would go... Oh, it's at the top of amazing for me. I don't think... I like Maps, I like the Estate Sale, I like Utopia a bit more, but it's like fringe between that 9 and 8. But I do think it's more so an 8. This is a great collab album in the sense that Earl Sweatshirt, he's a great lyricist, but he is a monotone rapper, and sometimes that makes it a little hard for me at least to get into his music. But The Alchemist's production really brings some energy and life to those performances, and they just really complement each other well. Okay, moving on to our first not good. I don't think it's worst album of the year candidate because, listen, Ski, it's interesting enough, but I can't right now just get through a whole album of Sexy Red. It's not for me. I don't think I'm the market for her album, to be fair, but it's really not for me. I can't listen to the whole project. I can't. It's not enjoyable whatsoever. So it's going in a not good. Now we got the Westside Gunn project. I'd give it a 7. I think it's a good album. I think he is better. It's definitely not his best, but it's still a quality project. Kitchen Lights is one of the best songs of the year, to be fair. The production is super unique for him. It's also a very emotional track, and I love the feature. With that being said, though, you got good ad-libs, you got good rapping. It's just not his best. For All the Dogs, I was very disappointed with. Honestly, if it was like a week after it came out, I probably would have put it in the not good category. But like every Drake album, some songs did grow on me, so I'd go average. I think it's just an average album. There are quite a few misses, but there's a good amount of good songs too. A Glorious Game, on the other hand, is not average. I'm gonna go amazing for that project. Similar to Westside Gunn, it's not Black Thought's best project, but you still got quality rapping. He really doesn't miss too often, Black Thought, and you can't go wrong with him. I'd definitely give it a 7 or an 8. Scarlet, I think Doja Cat has definitely declined. I don't really like the new direction of her music. I think it's definitely worse, and that's a not good. Glaucoma 2 is one of the best trap albums of the year. I'd give it a 7 to 8. And now Katramine, I think is going to be the first good. I think it's a good album. It's a nice summer vibe, but I do feel like it's just lacking in some place, in some area. It's not enough. I was left wanting more, and not necessarily in a good way. Jackman, while I do think it's an upgrade from Come Home the Kids Miss You, I still think it's pretty average. I'm just not too much of a fan of Jack Harlow in general. I don't think he brings too much to the table. He's just an average rapper who made an average album. Like by Ice Spice, I'm not going to put it in worst album of the year candidate because I won't deny that there is some catchiness to her songs, but ultimately it is very simple, very generic, very boring at points. She's obviously not a lyricist, but then she doesn't compensate that lack of lyricism for like energy or anything like that. She's just very mid in my opinion, but to be fair, she is young, so she could change it up, add some more to her artistry. She just hasn't yet, and she hasn't done it in this album for sure. Michael is an album of the year candidate for me. Scientists and Engineers is one of the best songs from this year. Overall, you got great quality rapping from Killer Mike, and I love the production choices on this album. The Great Escape, I'm not gonna lie, it is hard for me to get into Larry June at points, but with that being said, this is still an amazing project. Larry June's a phenomenal lyricist. And once again, you got that Alchemist production, which seems to never miss. Okay, let's start here. Is not only an album of the year candidate, I think it's neck and neck with Utopia. I love this album. I think it is super impressive. Lil Wayne tried to create a rock album. He couldn't. Kid Cudi tried to create a rock album. He couldn't. Lil Yachty tried to create a rock album, and he created what might be the album of the year. I mean, it is such an impressive project. The production is amazing. All the vocal effects that Lil Yachty added to his voice create a really cool psychedelic feel. And I'm still going back to pretty much every single song from this album, except maybe the interlude. It is such an impressive project. Next, we got Quaranta by Danny Brown, which I thought was an amazing album. You got great production. I love the guitars on that opening track. And I liked overall the introspectiveness that Danny Brown decided to add into this album. Pink Tape, honestly, I think is an overhated album. Is it that 7 to 8 range that I would have wanted it to be? No, but it's still a good project on the lines of Catch or Mine. Are there problems? Is it flawed? Yes. CS is not a great rock attempt, although Werewolf is pretty solid, which is his other rock attempt. But the biggest problem with this album is that it didn't necessarily feel like an album. It felt more like a playlist, which was unfortunate. With that being said, there's still quite a few songs that I'm going back to, whether that be Flooded the Face. Uzi seems to never miss on those intros. A was a song that I liked. I liked the production, the energy, although Travis Scott feature was questionable. I thought it was a good song overall. Nakamura, I love the WWE sample. You got songs like Patience with Don Toliver and plenty others that I just can't think of right now. Almost Healed, on the lines of the Drake project, I was very disappointed with. After All My Life, I thought he was going to be taking a more matured approach to his album, kind of change up the subject matter. He kind of didn't, though. He reverted back to what he's been rapping about, violence, drugs, all of that stuff. And ultimately, it made it kind of weird because in some songs, he was directly saying how drugs, violence, all that stuff, bad, not good, shouldn't participate. But then in other songs, it kind of seemed like he was pumping it up a little bit. So it made it lack continuity. But nothing could be worse than this. Lil Pump 2, horrible. And that is the worst album of the year. Like, not even candidate. It just is the worst. It's horrible. The heavy metal attempt is actually one of the worst songs I've heard in my life. It is really bad. Really bad. The Logic album, right? Yeah, that's the Logic project. I thought was good. I think it's good. A College Park, I don't think is better than Vinyl Days. Vinyl Days was a really good project. Good rebound for him. This is fine. Solid. It was good. Lovesick, I think, is also good. Once again, it's a flawed project in my opinion. Some of the songs just feel like background music, but I do think there's a vibe to it. I think it's pretty good. Lucky album was another pleasant surprise. I thought that the production choices were there. I think it was a very vibey album. This is no, honestly, worst album of the year candidate. For the Macklemore project, I don't know how people could genuinely like his music. Magic 3 and Magic 2 back to back. I think both of these were amazing projects. Hit Boy production, it matches so perfectly. I love the boom bap and trap infused beats. And then obviously Nas is just a great lyricist, so you have that going too. Hope is not good. I can't get into NF. I don't know if it's worst album of the year candidate, but it's just so like preachy. It's too preachy. He's like telling me everything that I need to do. It's too much for me. Friday 2 I thought was disappointing for sure. I'd go average. It's not horrible. I wouldn't say her songs are bad, but they were very like stock imagey, stock music, stock songs for Nicki Minaj. It just seemed like she was trying to create TikTok songs that will blow up on TikTok. And for someone who is a skilled rapper, like she can make very good music. She can pull up with really good verses. She didn't. She didn't in this. And that was really unfortunate. Nostalgia by whoa, why am I forgetting his name? Him, fat sad rapper. I thought was average. I know a lot of people like this project. I can't get into Rod Wave, that's his name. Can't get into him. I think it's boring. I think it's basic. I don't know. It's just boring to me. If Looks Could Kill, I thought was not good. It was too bloated, too repetitive, too not much of a change. Cut it off, I thought was in that amazing range. Definitely 7 to 8. The production was there. I like that there were definitely some emotional points in that album, but also some very hype points. And actually, Rocket Power, I think that's what that one's called, also in that 7 to 8 range. Very similar albums to me, but both have a lot of quality songs. I forget what this one's called. Shrem for Life, maybe. I think is average. It's just average. There's some cool songs, some fluff and not so cool songs that I'd never go back to and got bored of right away. Okay. So we got the NBA YoungBoy. It's just average to me. There's another one on here too, average. He makes the same song like 50,000 times. It's average. It's not bad, but he just does the same thing, so it's average. Conway the Machine album, I went back to a lot. I really enjoyed this album. I'm gonna go amazing. I love his lyricism. And Scaring the Hose, we are finally back to Album of the Year candidate. That's the 6th one. Wow. Okay. The production is out of this world. It's wild. It's crazy. You won't find anything like it really, and it's just insane and it's amazing. I love the energy that Danny Brown brings. I think that the chemistry between Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia is just fantastic because they're both these eccentric artists. And now we got something that's not as good. I think A Love Letter to You 5 was average. It was disappointing. The past Love Letters to You are way better. This is definitely the worst one. Mansion Music, another Trippie Redd project. This is trash. This is worst album of the year candidate. That toilet song is actually insane. I do think that I heard that his album got leaked and then that's why he made this. So maybe you could forgive him a little bit. Regardless, this is still awful, Mansion Music. Then we got Ugly. I think that was a 7 to 8. Very interesting listen. I can't say that it's my cup of tea necessarily, but I get the appeal and it was refreshing in a sense. College Grove 2, I'd also go 7 to 8. I thought there were a lot of cool bars that 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne had. And the production, I really enjoyed the production on this album. Yeat, I think this was a good album. It wasn't crazy. I'm not too big of a fan of Yeat, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I thought it was good. I thought it was fine. The Young Nudy album, I think is amazing. I have a lot of albums in the amazing category, but that was a pleasant surprise. This was the first Young Nudy album I personally listened to, and it did not disappoint. Business is Business, I think, is a really underrated album. People are not talking about it enough. Honestly, I'm going amazing again. I did not expect that many 7 to 8 range albums, but yeah, I got a lot of songs I'm going back to. Jonesboro is phenomenal. You got Metro Boomin production on quite a few tracks, which is always nice. And I thought the features were pretty good too. And then we got the Tizo Touchdown album, which is a very interesting one. I was really excited to see what he had to offer when the album came out. And ultimately, I think it's good. His biggest strength was also his biggest weakness. He crammed in so many sounds into one song. Sometimes it was too much. Sometimes it was amazing and cool and unique and special. And yeah, this is going to be my tier list for 2023 rap albums. Let me know if there were any albums I missed. I'll say what they were in the comments and let me know what you think. See you.